But as it's shown right now, this is a 3-year estimation on there. The one issue that was brought up, and I forwarded this out in email, is if we wait till the next biennium, which is 15-16, we actually have a better chance of getting a higher payback. I think you all got that, and it showed that there was the initial funding mechanism in there, where other school districts have had to share in the initial funding for that, for the startup costs on there. You've gotten down to the point now where you've only got 6% of the school districts left, and therefore those 6% have a better chance of getting higher funding. So in essence, by waiting, we're actually going to do better on that. However, it's not reauthorized until 15-16. Last I talked to them, they said there's no money left in there to approve for any other districts. So what I'm saying is I don't know that 14-15 is doable starting up. I think 15-16 would be the one to start and aim for. Not only from a time basis, also from a funding basis that will increase that. But let's check with the school financial services and find out if that is absolutely correct before we make that recommendation. Anybody have any questions on the grid we have there? If you look at the bottom of it, it says change in fund balance, change in school-based tax levy, change in surplus deficit. That's one to look at. That one, in essence, is not only a rolling average of us increasing by some students this year, it's an average of decreasing by students in 2 years previous, and then adding 72 FTE, or actually I think it was 70 FTE, somewhere around there back into it. So in essence, we're really recouping about 700,000, maybe a hair bit more from adding 4K. If we can keep the cost down to 350, we're doing okay. If we can't, and you have to add more sessions in more classrooms that we don't have, then we got trouble. So as long as we keep the amount of students down, so that's going to beg the question, how do we handle open enrollment students on a 4K? You know, I mean, this doesn't take into a lot of little scenarios for other things. I mean, there may be added cost for special ed or something like that, but I don't think we're looking at high costs on anything else really. Did you think of any, Chris? I mean, we got
most of the special ed cases, to answer your question, would be like speech only. We're, for the most part, we're already servicing them. They're just not, they come in and they leave, if that makes sense. So, but there may be, even though we have our child fines twice a year, there may be somebody out there yet that may qualify for services that we're not aware of.
Yeah. And this all doesn't take into account anything with FTE, because in essence, because this board has been good at managing funds over the last several years, we're about $1 million under what our tax cap is right now.
Yes.
Whereas high school, there's no possibility to add something like this. Once you tax the max, you're pretty much limited by what the state is allowing you to do. So we have the headroom to do it. I believe we have the fund balance to do it, as long as the next year we get money back into the fund balance. We're not deducting out of there over the long term. So if you ask me, looking at these numbers, and again, I want to talk to school financial services just to verify I'm not doing something or missing something or whatever it may be in my understanding of it. I would say that it has merit to add 4K, because that will increase our ability to go there. Could be 2-3 years without increasing taxes. Now again, this is not, it takes out of anybody's personal whether or not 4K is good or bad and it's helping students. This is strictly a financial benefit. Questions?
I have comments.
Sure.
That, you know, we always talk about, oh, it's not any extra taxes, but it's always taxes. You know, this, whether we get it from the state or from local taxes, it's out of one pocket or the other pocket, it still is an increase. I know you didn't want to talk about academics at this point. We're just talking about the finances of it. But we saw this presentation, and even in there were some students that I questioned whether they needed to be in our Title 4K.
Well, there's definitely some overachievers. They maxed out right off the bat. And there's some that
Well,
actually went down.
from initial testing, they were right up there, so,
Yeah,
and what this doesn't address is, you know, this is still a voluntary program.
yeah.
And so there are going to be students that are going to be coming into this program, and some may be helped, some may be already off the charts, you know, beyond where they need to be, starting into kindergarten. And there are going to be students that don't come into this program, aren't involved in it. And so you're still sitting with this disparity, and maybe even a greater disparity about those that are able and those that are lacking.
You know, you're correct, and I think what you're gonna find is the ones that are overachievers, in theory, ought not be in there, they'll be in fifth grade. Kindergarten, excuse me, not fifth grade, kindergarten, K-5.
K-5.
Yeah, fifth grade, right there.
Definitely overachievers.
Definitely overachievers.
We could teach in this district. Anyways, the other problem is you saw even on the 4K or the title, some students actually went down a little bit they did have knowledge of. I don't know that the graph didn't show very well any increase in those students. And not only that, you can see the disparity in the students' output. So another question is, did that student be here for a 3K? Don't say it sounds ridiculous, because the way it states, it might not be math is our talking about. So, but I'm just looking from a financial standpoint. I'm not looking from a standpoint of whether you believe it to be a good or bad for the student. I don't think it's detrimental to the students. And I'm looking from a financial standpoint that it does have merit, that we will make more than the cost of the program. Thereby, we should be able to hold any tax levy increase to a minimum for at least a couple of years. Then we're still stuck with, this area has been on a steady decline for a number of years for students. So again, nobody can predict the future. If the world picks up in a few years, maybe we're back to the good old days where people are building subdivisions all over. We never had an issue of having to look at the revenue. The revenue always increased. So, but in this scenario, with the way we position the district, with the funds of the fund balance and the ability of open facilities, I think it looks like it has merit.
It'll be interesting to hear your comments after you've spoken with others about it. First time I'm seeing this, so it's...
Yeah. Well, like I said, I just went over it today. This is new to me and to Chris. We went over it and finalized the numbers. It's with our bear forecast model programs. We just pop the numbers in there. This is not the exact one that the state uses. I want to have the state look at it and see if those numbers correlate. But it looks, I mean, any way you look at it, the more students you have, the better you're going to do. Now, we do lose some hold harmless money. We do gain some money from a few more students we added this year, so there's a lot of variability in it. But in essence, it really came out, once you look at the numbers, about $700,000 is what it came out to. Which more than pays for the program, which is completely opposite of what I was told at the state, which is there's no way we're going to make money above the cost of the program. So, let me see if I can get some more information on it, but that's where we sit right now. So let me do this. I want to table this to next month because I want to talk with more people at State Financial Services just to make sure I'm not missing anything. And we'll discuss it next month and go from there, I guess.
Okay.
That work?
You'll also find out that money's gonna be available for the next biennium then?
Well, that's the thing. You don't know until the next biennium because it might, either they can completely get rid of it, or in the case of the state, they can reauthorize it at a lower number. They can do anything they want to do. Nobody's achieved the 1,500 that was the original authorization in the first place. Everybody's been down anywhere into the 500s, 800s. So now becoming the last 6% of school districts doing it, you may maximize out, get 1,500. That's per year, so that's 3,000 per student. You might wind up getting a couple $100,000. So it'd be nice to get that chunk of change and have that to work with also.